Gaming Bolt presents 15 Things Hardcore Players Hate About Call of Duty World War II. Call of Duty World War II is finally out. Depending on whether you've actually been able to play it or not, server troubles for the win, there's a lot to like and lots to hate. In the interest of hate, let's take a look at 15 things that hardcore players hate about Call of Duty World War II. Opinions may vary though, so don't take it too personally. Loot boxes. You might be looking at this and thinking, the weapons you get aren't pay to win, or the loot boxes just have cosmetics. Which is all well and good, but we know that weapon variants that provide some kind of competitive edge are coming sooner rather than later. It also doesn't help that the supply drops for zombies are a huge difference maker for those who have the best power-ups versus those who don't. And obviously, the one who buys the most supply drops has a chance to get more OP power-ups than those who don't. Public loot box openings. As if the loot boxes weren't annoying enough, you actually get to open them in front of other players in the headquarters social space. Let's try to forget the utter stupidity of unboxing an emote or dank call sign in the beach of Normandy where so many people died. This was only implemented to incentivize other players to buy loot boxes, and it comes off as pretty scummy. Connection problems. And hey, regardless whether you bought Call of Duty World War II with the Season Pass, pre-order bonuses and some loot boxes or not, you probably couldn't stay online for very long. Connection problems have been plaguing the game since launch, and while headquarters is somewhat stable now, allowing more than a few players, it's still pretty embarrassing. Campaign on rails. Let's get to the campaign, which looks good enough and is probably the most visceral representation of World War II yet, graphically at least. There's simply too many times during the missions though, where you're suddenly on rails. Whether it's a turret sequence or a bombing run, switching back and forth between different segments in a single mission, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of dynamism in the campaign. Linear missions. This gets compounded by how linear some missions are. Don't get us wrong, Call of Duty does offer a pretty linear experience year in and year out, and linearity itself isn't really a bad thing, but it's just boring at this point and too one note. Why not have some actual open world levels for some battles and make World War II feel more chaotic as a result? Short campaign. Despite all the hate Call of Duty Infinite Warfare got when it was first announced, the campaign was actually pretty solid. It had a good amount of variety, and balanced linearity with some moments of freedom here and there. However, it was a pretty decently sized campaign. Call of Duty World War II's campaign is over in 6 hours. That's just too short, and for what's being offered, there are either longer games that are better, like Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus and Metro: Last Light, or similar length games that are also better, like Titanfall 2. Cliched characters. Okay, what are these characters? There's the tough guy, the college guy, the nice lieutenant, the tragic sergeant, and the guy who grew up on a farm. The last one's you, by the way. It'd be one thing if these characters were written well, but pretty much every cliche in the book shows up. There's a real been there, seen that feeling permeating through Call of Duty World War II's campaign, and these characters don't help. Too safe. All in all, the campaign for Call of Duty World War II just feels too safe. Like, there's nothing about it that's special or unique. Aside from pretty graphics, is there really anything about the campaign that stood out compared to, say, Battlefield 1's campaign? It's really a shame, especially when Sledgehammer Games delivered such a strong campaign in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. This just feels too meh after the first playthrough. An odd menu system. When hopping into multiplayer for the very first time, you'll be greeted with a somewhat odd menu system. You can choose Nazi zombies, campaign, ranked match, or other options from the main menu, or switch tabs for orders, customizing your soldier, and much more. Whether it's the overall navigation or use of tabs, it just feels non-intuitive at first. Maybe it takes getting used to. And as interesting as headquarters could be, I can't help but feel that it should have just been a simple menu system rather than a full-blown social space. I suppose it's a nice social space for what it's worth. Multiplayer spawn camping. We hope you like being spawn camped because in modes like free-for-all, the spawning is downright awful. I seem to recall similar complaints with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare's free-for-all, and it's odd how Sledgehammer has made no progress in that department. But hey, at least hit detection issues and disconnecting from servers after games end and getting no XP doesn't happen, right? Oh wait, yeah it does. Coming soon areas in HQ. You know what's worse than buying a full-price $60 game, and that's not even including the season pass or pre-orders? Buying a full-priced $60 game and seeing areas in the headquarters which say, "Coming soon." Sledgehammer could be planning new free content for these areas. However, unlike the Vault from Wolfenstein 2, we're not counting down to anything. We don't know when these are coming, and why they weren't ready for launch. And if they're not free, well, let's just move on. War Mode's 3 maps. A colleague correctly noted that War Mode debuted in Call of Duty World at War, and saw several changes for Call of Duty World War II, bringing something unique to the series. Suffice to say that Sledgehammer's gamble paid off. War Mode is a lot of fun, with its back and forth objective play, and provides Call of Duty with some much needed gravitas. However, it only has 3 maps. There are only 9 maps in the game, and 3 are for War Mode. Come on now. 1 perk slot. Yeah, you heard that right. You can choose only 1 perk. Do you go with akimbo pistols or no flinching, having a launcher as a secondary weapon, or faster sprinting and reloading? Is that really a choice? How did the perk system become so restrictive? Say what you will about balance, but this just makes certain perks much more valuable and others borderline useless. Unbalanced divisions. The introduction of divisions and specialized loadouts is pretty cool in theory. However, in practice, there are really only 2 or 3 that are actually viable. Infantry and mountain divisions are clearly the best for their perks and weapons. Like seriously, who wants a rocket launcher as a secondary weapon like the armored division has? Expeditionary may have something unique, but they need some better balance to really compete with the top 2. Same old, same old. When playing Call of Duty World War II, you might appreciate the slower movement and good old Call of Duty mechanics. However, even if the jetpacks and sliding weren't loved by many people, they at least brought some kind of freshness. The latest multiplayer feels old. Some people like that, and that's perfectly fine, but it doesn't shake the feeling that Call of Duty World War II is more of a safe retreat than the next step forward.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.